My name is Somashekar, course faculty for this course. We'll move on to the application of this Bernoulli's equation, where it is. Already we have seen the Venturi meter. Then I am giving you very quickly the velocity of fluid flowing at the outlet of the tank. Also, I will give one application, practical application as a siphon, how Bernoulli's equation is used. Let us quickly will see, friends, these applications very quickly. The Venturi, as we know that the Venturi is a device used in automobile engine carburetor. Correct? What is this Venturi? A special pipe whose diameter is gradually reduced until a constant diameter throat is reached, and then pipe is gradually increased until it reaches the original size. Meaning what it is, friend? You will see here how the pipe is reduced to reach the throat, and then again how increased to get the original diameter. This is figure what I have shown here is the Venturi. Now I am showing you here the flow through the Venturi, how it is. I am taking the station 1 and station 2. At the station 1, here I marked a Qn, meaning the quantity of fluid entering here, and Q out is a quantity of fluid is existing from the other end. Meaning what here, friends? You will see at the station 1, the fluid energy when it will go here, high pressure and low velocity. When it will move to here middle, low pressure and high velocity, is moving very fast, high velocity. We'll see now. Let us write Bernoulli's equation between the station 1 and 2. What I will do here, I am applying the Bernoulli's equation at the station 1 and station 2, assuming ideal flow and equal elevation Z1, because I am assuming that equal elevation is there, meaning Z1 equal to Z2. Now we will see what I did here. Same thing, the pressure energy, potential energy, kinetic energy equal in the station 1 and 2, but I am taken Z1 equal to Z2. I am removing that term. Now I am considering only P1 by gamma plus V1 square by 2G equal to P2 by gamma plus V2 square by 2G. Solving this, what I will get? P1 minus P2. P1 minus P2, what I am getting? Gamma by 2G, V2 square minus V1 square. Correct? Now I will show you this effect in the automobile carburetor. You will see here what I am showing you here. Automobile carburetor consists of, this is a Venturi, correct, and this is a fuel ball, and this is a throat of Venturi, constant diameter, and here I am using the butterfly valve to vary the flow. Air fuel mixture is exit now. We'll see that now here, friends, the volume of air flow is determined by the opening position of the butterfly valve. As the air flows through the Venturi, it speeds up because the area variations or diameter variations are there. It speeds up and loses some of its pressure. Pressure in the ball is equal to pressure in the air horn above the Venturi, The differential pressure between the fuel in the ball and the Venturi throat causes the gasoline to flow here. Here differential area different, here is different, then due to differential area it will flow into the air stream. The reduced pressure in the Venturi helps the gasoline to vaporize. This is a very simple, the Venturi principle used in the automobile carburetor for proper air fuel mixture. A very simple principle it is. Now we will move on to the Torricelli's theorem. here is a special case of Bernoulli's equation that applies to a liquid draining from a tank. Big tank is there, you will see, very huge tank filled with the incompressible fluid. I am tapping through this point. Correct, friend? We want to know what is our objective in the Torseli's theorem. We want to know the velocity of fluid flow at the outlet point P2. This is the main objective now. This can be determined by applying the Bernoulli's equation on the surface of the tank at point P1 and at the outlet point P2. What you will do? Again, you will apply the Bernoulli's equation at the point 1 and a point 2, assuming the P1 equal to P2 here, so that these terms may drop out and V1 is 0 as compared to V2 here. These are the two assumptions I am making. Pressure at here and here equal, and the velocity here it is 0 compared to here, assuming that the Bernoulli's equations is modified as, we know that Z1 plus P1 by gamma plus V1 square by 2g, the general Bernoulli equation. But these terms, as I have told, P1 equal to P2, these two terms I am cancelling. Similarly, the V1 square, here the velocity at the point 1 is 0, I assumed, I removed here. Now, what I will get, friends, this after removing the sum of the terms, Z1 equal to what happened? Z2 plus V2 square by 2g. Then meaning what it is, if I will make the small modification here by taking Z2 this side, Z1 minus Z2 equal to V2 square by 2g, or again I am making the small manipulation, 2g Z1 minus Z2, taking 2g here, V2 square, or what we will do, solving for the V2 we obtain V2 equal to square root of 2g Z1 minus Z2, okay, Z1 minus Z2. Here I am head I am taking H1, H equal to, these are the H1 minus H2, okay. The H is nothing but the Z1 minus Z2. Then the Torseli's equation or a Torseli's law becomes V2 equal to square root of 2gh. This is very, very important. The velocity at the exit is equal to square root of 2gh. H is a Z1 minus Z2 it is. So, the discharge velocity depends only on the height of the fluid level above the outlet point and not on the size of the tank. Size of the tank doesn't matter here. Very large tank filled with liquid, incompressible fluid. Correct, you will see here the velocity at the exit does not depend on any geometry of the tank, only it depends upon the H. H is the differential height. Now, we will move on to the device what I will call the siphon. What is this siphon, friend? Siphon is a familiar hydraulic device commonly used to cause a fluid to flow from one container in an upward direction. You will see here from two containers are there here. This is a siphon. Siphon is a tube. You will see here. Siphon is a tube used to cause a fluid flow from one container to another container. And over the obstacle means here it is a U-tube, U-tube. Then flow downwards into the second container. Similarly, see here, same figure I represented here schematically. Siphon is this is a siphon, the U-tube. U-tube is a siphon to tap the fluid from this tank to downwards. When the siphoning a gasoline from an automobile gas tank, what the person will do? A person can develop a suction pressure by momentarily sucking on the free end of the hose. What he will do? He will put this U-tube in the tank, then he will apply here suction, he will push it, then fluid once it will catch, continuously it will move until it will drain off. This allows the atmospheric pressure acting on this and here vacuum differential pressure is there, then it will catch up the fluid. Continuous flow operation. The free end of the U tube must below the gasoline level of the tank. Please remember, this is the free end. One end is in the U tube in the tank, another one is this Z2 is very important. Here 0 reference, from the top it is Z1, here I am taking the free end is, it is a Z2, meaning small h equal to what? Z1 minus Z2. Similarly, previous what I have told you. So, we can analyze the flow through the siphon by applying the same Bernoulli equation at point 1 and point 2. Same. What is that? As we know that here I am considering loss, this is a Z1 plus P1 by gamma plus V1 square by 2G. I am adding here some of the terms. The following conditions apply for the siphon. The P1 equal to P2 atmospheric pressure acting on the container, as well as here surface area of the fluid in the container is very large, so that V1 is 0, as I have told you in the previous slide. Therefore, no pump or no motor, that is why I am telling here, I considered here, but you do not neglect all the frictional losses. HP equal to HM, this is equal to 0. Then Z1 minus Z2, you will see here Z1 minus Z2 is small h. The above equation is identical to Torseli's equation. Add, after doing all the some manipulations, all what you will get, V2 equal to similarly 2G Z1 minus Z2, meaning here I will get the same equation what we have seen in the flow through the tank at the exit. Now friends, we will move on to one more principle generally used in oil hydraulics and pneumatics, popularly continuity equation. What is this continuity equation? For steady flow in a pipeline, the weight flow rate is the same for all the location of the pipe, meaning I am considered here the pipe having different diameters here, correct. Now, what I have shown here, D1 is a bigger diameter, D2 is a smaller diameter, fluid is entering here and fluid is exiting here. You will take any section here, friends, the weight flow rate remains constant. How it is? So, the flow rate at section 1 and section 2, the weight flow rate is constant, as I have told you, according to continuity equation for the streamlined flow in the pipeline. Meaning what it is, W1 equal to W2, that is equal to gamma 1 A1 V1, gamma 2 A2 V2. If gamma is a specific weight of the fluid and A1 and A2 are the cross sectional area at the pipe at section 1 and section 2, V1 and V2 are the velocities of the fluid at station 1 and station 2, or the volume flow rate is equal at any section, friends. Any section you will take the volume flow rate or weight flow rate, both are same, equal, Q1 equal to Q2. That is what A1 V1 equal to A2 V2. This is known as the continuity equation. These are, even though very simple, they are very important in hydraulics and pneumatics. Now, let us quickly will see the flow configurations. As we know, in fluid mechanics, laminar flow and a turbulent flow. These are very important. Please brush up all these things. What is a laminar flow? Laminar flow or a viscous flow, it is known as a smooth and a layered flow. See here, smooth and layered flow. Particles move along a well-defined paths or a streamlines, and all the streamlines are straight and parallel. You will see here, straight and parallel. You will see the velocity profile also here in the laminar flow. Next one is the turbulent flow. Here it is not smooth and a not layered pattern. You will see the pattern here, flow path pattern. Particles move in a zigzag paths, meaning a chaotic paths. What it will creates in the churning actions, meaning eddy formation, eddies formation takes place, which are responsible for high energy loss. But most of the derivation we people are assuming the laminar flows, because here losses are more in turbulent flows. But to understand the laminar and turbulent flow, we must know the one more term, what I will call Reynolds number. Reynolds number RE equal to Vd by nu. If the RE is, Reynolds number is less than 2000, the flow is termed as laminar flow. If RE is more than 4000, the flow is turbulent. If RE lies between the 2000 and 4000, the flow may be laminar or turbulent. Now quickly we will see some of the terms associated with the pressure. In oil hydraulics, already we know that incompressible fluid pressure P we are using. P is proportional to H, height of the fluid, irrespective of the container size, what we have seen. But now I will give you some of the important terms which are very essential in the pneumatics. The 4 important terms I am telling you now. One is called atmospheric pressure, gauge pressure, vacuum pressure, absolute pressure. As we have seen the 4 important terms of the pressure, now we will see these pressure terms referring to the figure. Here I have shown the XY graph in which absolute zero reference is marked, and then atmospheric pressure reference line, and above the atmospheric pressure reference line I have marked positive gauge pressure line, and below this I have marked negative gauge pressure line. Always you will remember, friends, the pressures are generally specified with respect to the atmospheric pressure reference line, which is generally the 1 bar, or the absolute zero reference line. Let us will see the 3 important pressure terms commonly used in fluid power system. First one is absolute pressure, also known as a total pressure. US customary unit for this is PSIA, meaning pounds per square inch. Absolute is measured from the absolute zero reference line. How it is? You will see here, absolute pressure, total pressure is always measured from the absolute zero reference line. Next one is a gauge pressure, also known as a positive gauge pressure. In US customary unit, it is a PSIG, pounds per square inch. G is a gauge. This is pressure above the atmospheric pressure reference line. Here you will see above this is a gauge pressure. Sometimes it is known as the positive gauge pressure. As because one more term is there, negative gauge pressure, which is measured below the atmospheric pressure reference line, meaning here you will get minus 0.3 PSIG, meaning it is a negative gauge pressure, always measured with atmospheric pressure reference line. Third one is a barometric pressure, also known as a vacuum pressure. Pressure below the atmospheric pressure reference line, always it is a barometric pressure or a vacuum pressure, which is below the atmospheric pressure. So, in one word, all the pressures generally specified with respect to the atmospheric pressure reference line, which is generally the 1 bar. Above it is called with respect to this. Above it is called the gauge pressure or positive gauge pressure. Below this line is a negative gauge pressure, which is nothing but also the barometric pressure or a vacuum pressure. Then from the absolute zero reference line, from the top, it is a absolute pressure. You will see here also, one more I have marked here, the absolute pressure. Here you will see, even though it is below the atmospheric pressure line, if you will measure with respect to the absolute zero reference line, it is known as absolute pressure. For example, its value may be 0.7. Also, you will remember, friends, the pressure units in SI unit is generally people are using the Pascal, kilopascal, megapascal and bar. Now, I will give you quickly some of the measuring devices for the different types of pressures. They are classified in the different categories. Now, I will tell you the moderate pressure measurement can be carried out using the manometers used generally for the static pressure, which uses the glass tube filled with water or mercury. Here different types are there in manometer: U-type manometer, well type or a reservoir type, or a cistern manometers, or a bent type manometers, mechanical displacement type, here ring balance manometers and a bell type manometers. And another classification here is elastic pressure transducers for measuring the moderate pressure, used for both static and dynamic pressure. These manometers are only static pressure, here for both static and dynamic pressure, which uses the elastic elements. Based on this, Bourdon tube pressure gauge, diaphragm type pressure gauge, bellow type pressure gauge, capsule type pressure gauge, or spiral type pressure gauge, helix type pressure gauge. There are various categories are there in the elastic pressure transducers for measuring the moderate pressure measurement. Electrical pressure transducers for measuring the moderate pressure. Here resistance type pressure gauge, potentiometric devices, inductive type pressure transducers, capacitive type transducers, piezoelectric pressure transducer. These are for the moderate pressure measurement. You will see, if you want to measure a very high pressure measurement, can be carried out using the electric gauges based on resistance change of magnum or a gold chrome wire. The high vacuum measurement can be carried out using McLeod gauge, thermal conductivity gauge, or is also known as Pirani gauge, ionization gauge, Knudsen gauge. Please understand, friends, there are various types of pressure measurement devices are there to measure the moderate pressure, very high pressure and a very high vacuum. Now, I required the indicative pressure range for the instrument, correct? Now, we will see below 1 mm of Hg, we are using the manometers and a low pressure gauges. Between 1 mm of Hd to 1000 atmospheric, Bourdon tubes, diaphragm gauge, bellows. High pressure means 1000 atmosphere and above, we are using the electrical resistance type. Very low pressure or a high vacuum up to 10 to the power of -6 torr, we are using McLeod gauge, thermal conductivity gauge or a Pirani gauge, ionization gauge. There are various instruments are there for measuring the different level of pressures. Now, quickly we will go to the gas laws, which are very essential to understand the pneumatics. Here, in the 16th century, the scientists have discovered the laws to relate the interactions between the gas parameters temperature T, pressure P, volume V, as we know that here friends, in 16th century scientists have studied when we are taking the closed contained gas assumed to be air, then fitted with the piston, when we will push this by using the pressure F1, they are studying what happens to the gas inside the cylinder, what happened to pressure inside the cylinder, what happened to volume, what happened to the temperature. The people are studied these gas parameter, pressure, volume and temperature inside the closed container. What happen if you push this piston inside the cylinder? What happen? Pressure increases, P2 is greater than P1, what it is inside previously, and volume decreases, whatever the large volume here, when piston moves down, volume decreases. But you will remember temperature also increases. You will see friends what happened to the gas parameter when we will push the gas inside the cylinder. The pressure increases, volume decreases and temperature increases. Then based on this, the different scientists are studied by keeping one parameter constant and varying two parameters. Here you will see the Boyle's law. He kept temperature constant and he studied what happens to pressure and volume inside the container. Charles' law relates to the volume and temperature. If you will keep the pressure constant, what happens? Similarly, Gay-Lussac's, he studied the relationship between the P and T, pressure and T, temperature, when volume constant. The general Glass law is one which relates to pressure, volume and temperature. Let us quickly will see this friends. The Boyle's law, what we know as constant temperature process it is. If temperature remains constant, the pressure of a confined mass of gas will vary inversely with its volume. So mathematically it is represented P is inversely proportional to 1 over V. That is equal to PV equal to constant, meaning anywhere you will take any number P1 V1 equal to P2 V2, that is equal to P3 V3, or V1 by V2 equal to P2 by P1. How he did experiment? He took the air in the container and he fitted with piston and push rod. When you will push this, what happens? As I have told you, T1 equal to T2. It is a constant temperature process he maintained, and the F2 is greater than F1 and V2 is less than V1. It is a constant temperature compression process. The Charles law. Here constant pressure process it is, constant pressure. If the pressure remains constant, what happens to the volume and the temperature? The volume of a confined mass of gas will vary directly with absolute temperature. Mathematically, V is directly proportional to T, or V by T equal to constant, or V1 by T1 equal to V2 by T2, V3 by T equal, or V1 by V2 equal to T1 by T2. How he did here? You will see here, instead of applying the force, varying force on the piston, he kept the known weight on the piston. Then he studied what happens to the volume, what happens to the temperature, keeping the P1 equal to P2. How he generated the pressure here constant? By keeping the known weight over the piston. He studied what happens to my volume decreases automatically and temperature increases. It is a constant pressure heat addition. What he did here friends, he added the heat here. Correct? The Gay-Lussac's law, constant volume process, friends. Volume remains constant, then what happens to P and T? If volume remains constant, the pressure of a confined mass of gas will vary directly with the absolute temperature. Mathematically, P is proportional to T, or P by T equal to constant, or P1 by P2 equal to T1 by T2. How he did here? He took only the cylinder filled with the air V1. Then what he is doing? Constant volume, no? What he is doing now? He goes on adding the heat here. Then he is studying what happens to my P2 and T2. Yes, P2 increases and T2 also increases. This is a constant volume heat addition. Heat addition it is. Last but not the least, the general gas law relates to all the gas parameter, temperature, pressure, volume. Here, since none are held constant during the process from state 1 to state 2, the Boyle's law, Charles' law, Gay-Lussac law can be combined into the gas law as defined mathematically as PV by T equal to MR, or simply you will call it a PV equal to MRT also. Very easy it is. M is a mass of the gas, R is a what you will call a gas constant. This is very important to relate all the parameter used in sizing the gas loaded accumulator. Okay, you already brushed up many basics of fluid mechanics. I am requesting all the students brush up all the things once again what you have studied in the lower semester in fluid mechanics. If not, you will brush up using the various textbooks. These are very, very fundamentals to learn the oil hydraulics and pneumatics. So, I will conclude today's lecture. Today we have discussed some basics of fluid mechanics which are essential to understand the course oil hydraulics and pneumatics better. We have discussed the hydromechanics, laws related to hydraulics. Here we have studied the Pascal's law and its application, law of conservation of energy, Bernoulli theorem, energy equation and its application, continuity equation, flow configurations, then laws related to pneumatics, all gas laws. Okay, friends, we will stop now. We will meet in the next class to study the detailed fluid power symbols, very much essential to construct and to understand the fluid power circuits during the course. Until then, bye-bye. Thank you one and all for your kind attention. Sarve jana sukhino bhavantu. Thank you.